CRS, Catholic Relief Services, it's the official international aid and development agency of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, which means it is officially a project of the USCCB, and it reports to the USCCB. You know, they actually have to do what the USCCB tells them. Half of their board is made up of U.S. bishops. So as I've been investigating CRS, like I said, for 10 years, I initially discovered that CRS was partnering with organizations and facilitating funding to organizations that are, you know, these are huge pro-abortion, pro-contraception, contraception spreading, condom spreading organizations. And I raised a red flag about it. I said, why are we giving money to organizations that are acting contrary to the church's teachings? And the response was, oh, no. We're giving them money for a project that has nothing to do with that stuff. We wouldn't give them money for the contraception and condom stuff. Right. Really? Okay. So I figured, well, maybe I should start looking at the projects that they're partnering with these groups on. And over time, it started to become clear these projects are dirty. There's no way that we could be participating in this project or that project. And every single time I put out a report, CRS was like, oh, no, it's not what you think. We're still sequestered off in this one little box that has nothing to do with the bad stuff. And so with this report last year, it started in February, and it all began one document where CRS was talking about condoms in a CRS document. And I was like, why are they talking about condoms? And I started looking. It was a part of a project called For Children. And I thought, okay, well, what is this project? What is this conversation about condoms? Why are they talking about this? And what's going on here? And so I looked for other CRS documents, and I found document after document after document that was published, copyrighted, and produced by CRS from 2017, 2018, and even as recently as December of 2019. And these documents were all talking about how, hey, if you use a condom, it's 98% effective at preventing STIs and HIV. And one document even said it preventing pregnancies. So they're not just talking about it as a preventative for disease. They're also talking about it as a preventative for pregnancy. So I just kept looking and looking. And as you pointed out, you know, some of the stuff was in French. I don't speak French. I had to use Google Translate in order to help me through it. And once I started reading what I thought I was reading, it became very evident that CRS was deeply involved in the promotion of condoms through this For Children project. And that's what sparked this year-long investigation.
My suspicion on the French, correct me if I'm wrong, is not that these documents were having international aid to France. Where else is there a large French-speaking population? Africa. Yeah, exactly.
And the documents I was just talking about were for the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Precisely. Yeah. So this is exactly what Bill and Melinda Gates are doing. They're sending aid to Africa in the form of contraceptive services, and CRS, our bishops, are right there wrapped up into it.
Well, yes. Every diocese has been taking up a collection for CRS every Lent. And again, every time I bring this up, we have a couple of bishops that would come out and say, oh, no, that's not what's happening. Lepanto Institute, they're just a bunch of cranks. Mm-hmm. Archbishop Coakley was particularly vitriolic against what I was saying. But, you know, I've always been very honest with the bishops and trying to tell them, look, I'm not trying to hurt the church, and I'm not trying to give a black eye to the bishops. I actually give the information to CRS before I go public with anything. And they either don't respond or they promise a response and don't give me an answer. In any event, I'm always forced to go public with the information because the bishops are asking the faithful for money for these projects. And I think that the faithful are owed due diligence. They're owed full knowledge of where their money's going.
Now, okay, so let's say you go to a bishop and you present this to him. He's like, oh, well, we do lots of good at CRS. So tell us some of the good things that CRS does.
They're going in and helping to distribute food goods. They do disaster relief, which tends to be pretty good, too, when they're not partnering with organizations that are handing out condoms. It's like when I met with Bishop Kikanis, who was the chairman of CRS in 2011. I flew out to Arizona to meet with him to tell him, hey, look, I'm finding problems. There are things that are here that aren't good. And he's looking through the stuff I'm showing him on my laptop over and over. And he looks over and he says, you sure spend an awful lot of time on this thing, meaning the laptop. And I said, well, it's my job. I do research. Yeah. And so I'm showing him more stuff. And he says, well, you're showing me an awful lot of negative stuff. We do a lot of good too. And I said, Your Excellency, I didn't fly 3,000 miles to pat you on the back. I flew 3,000 miles to tell you I'm finding a problem. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are good things that CRS does, but I'm not going to waste your time by coming out here to shake your hand. Yeah, I was talking to a bishop once about some of the things that I was finding, and I showed him some of the stuff on CRS, and he just shook his head and he said, they always have about 4 layers of plausible deniability.
So it seems that the problem is not just fixing the language of the document and not just looking at, an audit and line items. It's actually related to the reception of the money and the tentacles that reach into the agenda, because the money that comes in there's a certain assumption from these agencies that they're going to implement, cooperate with this global agenda.
Yeah, and there's a reason why Pope Benedict in 2010 issued a motu proprio called On the Service of Charity. And Article 10 of this motu proprio actually specified that bishops are not to allow charities under their charge to receive funding from organizations whose primary ends or secondary ends involve things which are inimical to church teaching. That's specifically written into the motu proprio. If CRS were to follow that, they would necessarily have to stop taking funding from those agencies I mentioned, and also the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and others like it.
Yeah. Now, who has the authority? Is it someone at the USCCB? Is it a cardinal? Where does the buck stop on CRS?
Well, it can stop with every single bishop. They can withdraw their support from CRS. Every bishop in his own diocese can say, you know what, we're not going to participate in this. In terms of fixing CRS, well, that has to be done by the board. The bishop's board plus the lay board on the other half have to get together and say, this is a real problem, and we need to have an independent investigation. Again, if McCarrick is going to teach us anything, internal investigations are absolutely worthless. You're going to have a bunch of mobsters go, hey, we investigated ourselves and we found ourselves innocent. Yeah.